You're listening to Creating a Universe, a Love Anarchy podcast hosted by William J. Rogers. On this show, we follow the journey of creatives, artists, and entrepreneurs who are making a name for themselves in the ever-evolving landscape of today's industry. Featuring an insight into both Love Anarchy and the Lovaniverse music universe, as well as the individual projects and stories of each of our guests, from the music industry and beyond. So whether you're a budding creative or simply interested in what goes on behind the scenes, this is the podcast for you. Hello and welcome to Creating a Universe. I'm your host, William J. Rogers, and today I'm here with frontman of the progressive metal band Ramage Incorporated, Mr. Bryan Ramage. How's it going, Bryan?
Not bad.
Awesome to be here with you, man. Thank you so much for joining me. It's a real pleasure to get to touch base. New album, Humanity Has Failed. It's just come out and man, it's absolutely fantastic. Like, oh God, I love this album. But before we get into it, for anybody that might not know who you are, would you just be able to give a little bit introduction as to who you are and what you do?
I am Bryan Ramage, lead singer of the progressive metal band, Scottish metal band, Ramage Inc. Started off as a solo project many years ago with my friends when I was young and had lots of hair, and it later became a thing, and we've done tours. We've been various countries, and yeah, we're plodding along, and we've just released our new album, Humanity Has Failed, which is. It's pretty dark, pretty epic, proggish, epic metal. So if you like that kind of thing, then yeah, check us out.
Fantastic, man. So you've obviously touched upon it a little bit there. I'd love to delve into in a little bit more depth. How would you describe the sound of the band?
Well, we've been, like in many of our interviews, we've been referenced as sounding like the Devin Townsend project or and bands of similar ilk. Yeah, I think it's mainly because the style of, shall we say, metal that we play. I'm a melodic singer, and I tend to do a lot of choirs because I am primarily a music producer. I love to do vocal harmonies and layers and layers and layers of vocals, because it's just, I don't know, I like it, and it works with the kind of music that I'm looking to write and produce. That's where the distinction kind of gets met, because there's not many other artists out there, to my knowledge, that do stuff like that as intensely, as in the forefront of the sound. And I like, in this album particularly, I've delved more into a little bit more extra instrumentation rather than just guitars, bass, drums, and vocals. Than on the previous album, I played a little bit cello and an Epley instrument called the sarungi.
Wow.
Where on this one, I actually delved more into sort of MIDI orchestral composition on top of things, just to make things just a tad more epic, because the massive choir wasn't big enough.
Amazing, man. Yeah, it's a hell of a sound, man. And especially this last album, it's like you've been building and building on it. And this last one is just huge. Like, it's absolutely huge. I definitely get the Devin Townsend likeness. I mean, personally, I'm a massive Devin Townsend fan, one of my favorite artists. So I definitely hear that, especially like the moment I put on that record, it had such a vibe that I was like, whoa, am I listening to Devin Townsend? But then as it unfolded, yeah, I could really see your unique take on what you kind of do with that. And yeah, it's really cool. I think there's some way, sometimes you've got some more alt rock kind of things that come in there too. I think very cool.
Well, that distinction is always going to be there. It's kind of like a stigma for it.
Is Devin a big influence, would you say?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I kind of wear my influences on my sleeve, and especially like vocally. Yeah, I love his vocals. I love the kind of intense things that he does. But I'm also a massive fan of Chris Cornell. I like his take on the sort of more soulful power rock kind of singing. I love Gojira. Don't know if that comes across in certain sections, especially musically.
Sure.
I'm a massive fan of a band called Clone, French metal band. Pretty sure they're French.
Fantastic.
But I've been listening to them for years now, and but they're more sort of chill metal. But yeah, I mean, with this one as well, I was kind of listening to an awful lot of Hans Zimmer.
Right, for the symphonic elements, right?
Yeah, and another. I don't know if you can really call it a band or an artist, a collective of musicians. Igor.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I've seen some stuff from them. It's very interesting. Interesting group.
Yeah, their new album, it's been released for a little while now. What's it called again? Distortion something. That's annoying me. I want to tell you about my memory.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there is one track. Was it like a Baroque breakdown type thing or whatever? That really stood out to me, man. I was like, wow, what is this?
Spirituality and Distortion. That's what it was called. Yeah.
Right. Nice. That's a cool thing.
And it's the sound of the album is like very influential on the overall sort of power that I wanted to achieve with my thing, with Humanity is Full. Because man, when I heard that, and I think it was a song called Himalaya Massive Ritual or something from them. Tend not to remember songs these days. I just put the whole album on and just listen to it.
That's it.
And there was another song called Downgrade Desert, which I think was their single. But just the sheer power of the drums on their production was like it's overwhelming. I was like, man, that's far too loud. Then
outrageous.
It kind of got into it, and I was like, man, no, it's just right. I sought to kind of try and do something like that myself with this one, production wise, but still keep the flavor that I'm used to. With the previous stuff.
Wow, yeah, really awesome, man. Yeah, I love how you crafted that sound, and I'm actually really fascinated about that, and would love to chat with you maybe in a little bit more about production and stuff. But first of all, I think I'd love to get a bit more of an idea of Ramage as a band. You guys have been a band for a good while, right? Is this your fourth full-length album? Is that right?
Yeah, well, this is where it gets confusing, and it depends on how much I want to say.
Right.
Like if you're going right back to the beginning, I started the little project when I was 21, 22. It was a long time ago. And it got a little bit of local recognition in Edinburgh, and it was fun. I was a kid, I had long hair, I wanted to be in a metal band, and I tried a few metal bands, and none of them were really doing the kind of thing that I wanted to do for my own creative outlet. So I did my own little thing, and when life happened, you go in your mid-20s, you get a job, and but then I started it back again for a little while when I was at college. I think it was around about 2006, 2007, and we made a little EP. Like before that, we'd done an album, which I think it was called Universe, which we put up. I put both that Universe album and this little EP up on Bandcamp many years later. I think it was around about 2010, 2011. after like the group disbanded and I was away singing for another band called Sleece from Holland.
Right.
And that was just kind of sat there on Bandcamp. I also had like another album recorded that I just didn't bother putting out because I wasn't doing anything with the project. But it kind of got a little bit more attention once I put things up online. Just that little EP, and we got invited to play ProgPower Europe.
Wow!
Off the back of that little EP, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool gig. It's like, wow, I better get a band together.
Nice,
so I kind of accepted it before I even really had a band together, and I got a few of the musicians that were in previous lineups of the project back, and we played ProgPower and quickly put an album together from all the demos that I had like lying around, and that became Feel the Waves, which is like what I kind of see as the first proper like Ramage Inc album, which was like over a decade later than the project's conception. But yeah, I think it was like the first sort of kind of mature-ish album that was put out, and that's with this lineup that's been the same ever since, and that was 2012. That was 2012. We all got together. I think it was 2013 we released Feel the Waves. Then after that we had Earthshaker, then Under the Skin, and now this album, should have been released a while ago, but a lot of things got in the way, like well, mainly COVID.
Yeah, in the way of everyone, everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry for that, but with that, like the album ended up being a little longer as well because we made a lot more and music during the production stage, and you tend to do that with all the other albums as well, and you just kind of trim the fat. But with this one, we just really, really liked everything that we did, and it all kind of worked together in our minds anyway. And so we just kept it being long, which has received some criticism, but I don't care.
That's it, man. You got to do what's right for you. Like I read a review from you earlier where there was a guy that was criticizing the length of the album, and I must say I didn't notice that the album actually flew past for me, man. And I think that's just testament to how quality the music is. So each to their own, man. You got to do what's right for your vision.
But yeah, I like to try and keep things varied on the album as well, and that's where it kind of it was a bit torn as to, like, what stuff can I cut or because each song, like, you listen to what am I trying to say here? Like, like metal bands, they kind of have a particular vibe, like from start to finish, like the grarg metal bands, it's which is cool, like Meshuggah, love Meshuggah, they're amazing, but they're like non-stop, and I like to try and break things up and have a bit more peaks and troughs and
more
dynamics. So like, but still have like the same kind of like feel and like emotional vibe, like or emotional journey, like throughout. I play around with different keys and different styles and different kind of melodic flavors. And that's where it was like, man, well, if I take that song away from the album, then it won't have that kind of flavor at all anymore. And I guess that's where, in my mind, it doesn't really get like stale. Like it's always moving along into something else. And that's what I like. I don't like to repeat myself too much.
I'm with you, man. Yeah, I'm with you. And because because you got a lot of quite big, epic, long tracks on there as well, which obviously adds to the runtime. And, you know, those are a whole journey in themselves, right?
Well, my average kind of song length, I guess, is around about 6 to 7 minutes. Not 67, 6 to 7 minutes.
Yes, that'd be a very long album with a few of those on it.
Yeah, got to watch the accent sometimes, people. No, but I did have I think it was initially a 14-minute track on this album that I cut down to, I think it's 10 minutes, or I can't remember.
There was one about that, yeah.
Yeah, whereas the initial incantation of it was, well, the bulk of the song is actually just 7 minutes long. Then it goes into this like coda that was meant to repeat 4 times. But it's like a rhythmical journey. If you listen to it, it's like the pattern. The pattern's like this length, but but I wanted to put the snare drum like on, you know, 4s, like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, then, but it didn't fit with the length of the pattern. So I just repeated it until the snare came back to the beginning. Then I wanted to do that like 4 times in a row.
Yeah, it just feels every time like you want to keep going. Yeah. It makes me think of like Deliverance by Opeth. You know, they have that song, and that's a very long one as well. But it's, again, the last few minutes, it's just that kind of breakdown coda type thing, and it's so awesome that they close most of their shows with it. So
another one of my big influences musically. I love Opeth.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, man, that's cool. I mean, it goes with that territory. Like I don't know if you know, but like I'm always blown away by that guy Andy at Northern Music. It's like a company that I don't know how many people know it, but it's a management company, and their roster is insane because they manage, like, he manages Devin Townsend, Opeth, Paradise Lost. It's like a small roster of bands, but they're all just like amazing bands. And he also Jens Bogren as a producer. Yeah, it's an amazing roster.
Jens, you got to hand it to Jens. He's a good guy. I've never met him, but I use some of his stuff.
Totally. Yeah, what a producer, man! And the software is awesome.
No, I love what he done with Sepultura. Those guys were needing some tender loving care production wise. I think. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Sepultura. I can't believe I didn't mention them already. I thought. That's kind of apparent on the opening track as well, I think, of Humanity's Fail. Me and my drummer Hammy, we've loved Sepultura since we were kids. Nice. Went to see them back in the old Roots days.
Wow, yeah. Back in the day, that was influential.
Yeah, I think it was, we seen them on, I think it was a Friday the 13th. I think it was 3 days before it all kicked off and Max left the band or got booted out the band. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't care. But like Derek Green came in and they went from strength to strength in my mind.
Yeah, nice, man. Sorry. Yeah, and Jens Bogren, man, perfect combo right there, man. Oh
yeah, the new drummer, is it Eloy Casagrande? Wow! What a powerhouse of a drummer.
Yeah. So I'm curious, how would you say then? Obviously, we kind of spoke a bit about the last couple of albums, especially the most recent. But I'm curious where you started this band, kind of as more of a solo project. How would you describe the sound at the beginning and how it's changed over the course of the band?
When I started it, the sound was awful.
More stylistically, I think I was going for.
That was horrendous. No, I at the time, like gear wise, I think I hadn't even done any like proper learning on music production. I just knew that I wanted to make this kind of sound and didn't know how to go about doing it and what kind of gear would be best to use, and budget, and you're a kid, and we're not got all the luxuries that we have now, where you go out, you buy like a laptop and you've got everything you need pretty much. So yeah, I think I was using a like I think it was a mini disc 8-track recorder thing.
Nice.
So I was limited to the amount of tracks. Like you had to bounce things together, and
Nice.
It's interesting, and this was before I had a proper amp as well. I think, yes, I bought my first 5150, which is like the PV 5150 combo amp, and I loved that sound, and I still used it right the way up until this album, where I changed. I'll get into that. But the sound by that, I mean, it was intense. I didn't really know where I was going lyrically some of the times. The things were a bit disjointed, but now, being a bit older, got a few things that I want to get off my chest. I try and make a more coherent theme throughout albums, and make... This album's a bit different because the previous ones, like from Feel the Waves onwards, like kind of like my lyrics to be ambiguous and open to interpretation, and never really liked talking about like lyrical content and what it's about. Always wanted other people to kind of make their own interpretations of stuff. But with this one, I don't know, I just wrote it. It's a little bit more obvious.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a cool topic. We'll put a pin in production for a sec and just think like, I get the vibe this has got a kind of like ecological sort of theme to it, right? Like environmentalism. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, every one of the songs on the new album has its own perspective at what I think is like looking at the same thing. There's a particular song that's about my fear for the future regarding my daughter, because I was kind of freaking out about, when during COVID time when she was coming into the world, and like our world leaders were all mental. At the time we had Bojo and Mr. Trump as well. And,
what a combo.
And Putin and all the crazy stuff that's going on in China and Korea and that. It's just, I had to just turn the TV off.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, so a lot of songs are about many things. I watched far too many documentaries during that time as well. A lot of David Attenborough and these conspiracy kind of documentaries. And it kind of put me in a very negative headspace. I was very misanthropic during that time, and that led to the lyrical content of this album.
So would you say, so misanthropic, is that how you would describe it in a word? Like it's about kind of losing faith? Well, humanity has failed is the title, right? So
yeah, pretty much sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm with you, man. So is there... Go on.
I didn't want to make it completely bleak, It's just that was... I wanted to have some semblance of hope in there, and that's what the last track's about. That's why it has no lyrics, because I couldn't think of anything nice to say.
Nice.
It's called A Dream of Unity, and it was like I just wanted to express my bleak sense of hope in a musical form by just having two chords going throughout and having all the choir and extra additional instruments do exactly the same thing musically. So in a sense, it was in my mind, it was like projecting an image of like humanity all coming together.
Harmony.
Hoping that they can sort themselves out.
I like that you couldn't even describe that in words, because that there's certain feelings that are just conveyed in music so much more appropriately than you could ever do in words, right? So I love that.
Yeah. So A Dream of Unity. So it's like kind of like a hope, but like everything up to that point is like me just getting things off my chest.
Yeah. You feel like it's a sort of cathartic purge, I suppose. If you were kind of feeling a lot of that funk, you just kind of use the music as an outlet for that.
Yeah. I mean, I was very disillusioned with us as a species, I guess. Watched far too many disturbing, horrible things. I guess if you expose yourself to too much, like scary and horrible things on television, then and you think, man, it's what the world is really like. Then you turn the TV off for a few weeks and go about your day job, and you come home to a loving family, and
that's great, man.
My wife and my daughter, very supportive, and you kind of get yourself out of that rut. So yeah, turn off the TV, folks.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think especially at that time, like the whole pandemic and everything, I think that probably a lot of people went through their own version of something like that, and I guess it's inputs and outputs, right? So if you're, as you say, if you're consuming a lot of that kind of dark energy and this lens on reality, then it warps your perception in that way, I suppose. Yeah,
but it's like we're just kind of believing what's getting. We are. How do I say this? A result of our own environments. Product of our own environment. That's I think I put it lyrically in some point in the album, and. If like we were saying, if you subject yourself to a lot of that stuff, then you're just gonna what do you believe? If that's what's on the TV, that's what's on the news, that's what's happening in the world, then there's no other way of really knowing unless you go there yourself. Yeah.
I'm with you, man. And I love the way that you express it musically, because you seem like quite a reserved guy, you're like, hold yourself well, but then you hear this music and it's just this utter explosion of sound, and it's like, wow, there's a lot clearly going on in there, internally that you're processing.
Yeah, I mean, it's music like from the get-go, from when I started, it was like a way for me to express myself in a way that I can't articulate in words. Me communicating with you now is many years of practice, because I've always struggled to convey what I'm really trying to say in sentences. And music from when I was a kid was a much easier form of expression. I had to work quite hard on and I still do, trying to formulate sentences. I was dyslexic. I am dyslexic. And sometimes trying to piece things together, it all gets jumbled up, and it's and so music, it means I can sit down, I can think things out and write things the way I want to say it, and it comes out. So when I'll finish this interview and it gets put out there, I'll be like, oh my God, you bumbling fool. Why didn't you say this? Why didn't you say that? Why can you remember that particular subject or thing that you wanted to say? I'm one of those guys.
I get you, man. But I love that too. I love that topic, just about how wonderful a thing music really is, because in that way, words are so unsophisticated, really, in comparison to a form of communication like music. It's like you can really feel somebody, connect with somebody on a much kind of deeper level, don't you think?
Yeah, because music as well, depending on how gifted you are at writing music, you can convey emotions without having any words. And that's where, for example, film music comes in. Hans Zimmer, absolute genius. John Williams, Alan Silvestri, these guys, in my mind, are masters at conveying emotion musically. And you could have an image on the screen, and depending on what the music's doing underneath
man.
can completely change the mood of, or what you imagine that image to be, or what kind of emotion you're meant to be feeling by looking at it. It's I find that really interesting. It's something I wish I could do myself.
Compose for film, is that?
I'm nowhere near talented enough to do that, but it would be awesome.
What do you think it is that would be a struggle? Because I mean, you're clearly very musical, and you can convey the emotions appropriately. What would be the challenge?
I guess it would depend on what it is that I need to convey. Like I'm good at expressing the emotions that I want to express because it's me that's feeling them. And I'm not, if someone was to give me this movie and say, "Oh, you need to convey this emotion for this thing," but I don't feel that today. We need a really happy dance section to this part of the film. It's like I'm never dancey in a dancey mood.
I get you. So you'd have to work with certain genres, I suppose.
I guess.
This is in music.
Yeah. Action, sci-fi.
Nice. Cool, man. I mean, I think that's a pretty good genre to work within. Plenty of stuff there, I think. And I mean, that's curious. It kind of brings me back around slightly to think, in terms of your writing process, then, would you say it is quite an emotional thing? Do you feel a certain way and then go to your guitar, or how does that tend to work?
It's strange. I never really think about what I'm feeling at any particular time. Like, obviously, as a human being, when you're upset or if you're happy, sad. But when I'm, when I get time to sit down with the guitar, I'm in a more sort of like calmer mood anyway, because I need to be a bit chilled out or at least happy to play the guitar, because I'm not really I can't really play the guitar or feel like I want to play guitar or be creative if I'm in a bad mood. But when I do pick up the guitar, that's the first thing. That's the first step to the creative process, and I just let the fingers do the talking and just play shapes until stuff comes out. And I'm like, and sometimes I surprise myself. It's like, for example, like a few days ago, I started writing again because I haven't written anything for a little while now because I've been working so hard on this album. But a few days ago, I picked up the guitar and I wrote something extremely heavy. And I was like, wow. Like I did not expect that at all. Like heavier than anything I've ever done on Ramage Inc stuff. And it's like, well, that's a thing. So I put that somewhere for maybe later. Nice. But I was expecting something really chilled. 'Cause I've just worked on this album and I'm like, man, maybe I just need to cleanse my palette, maybe do something like acoustic or like a bit chilled out, and I go and do something like that and I'm like, oh my god, right, what? Okay.
Yeah, I love it. But so it's cool. You kind of just like channeling it in a way, let it flow. You're going blank, clean slate, like pick up the guitar, just see what happens.
Yeah, I touched on this in a previous interview where we talked about like bringing things out from the old archives, and I tend to just like let the music flow, and however much time I have for being creative, I make that a thing, then keep it there, and if it's not, in the kind of style or mood that I'm trying to create for like an album as such, then it gets kept aside for maybe a later date, where if I am creating something heavy and dark and that will fit that, then I might bring it out and work on it and refine it a bit more. And the lyrics kind of come later. I have like melodies or like timings of lyrics and of words and things, of where things would go, and kind of put scratch tracks down, then, like for example, on this album that I've released, there's a few tracks on there, riffs that were written like 15 or 17 years ago. Wow. There's that big epic track, the long one, When All the Lights Go Out. That was recorded. Like the guitars for it were recorded back in 2009, I think.
Wow.
In my old flat in Edinburgh. Yeah, I think I wrote that whilst I was still in the band Celise, still singing for them, and I was obviously very influenced with the whole sort of math, like metal side of things, because they're essentially like a math proggy metal band. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it just sat there because I really liked the track, but it just didn't fit with anything that I was doing musically with Ramage Inc. Nor, no disrespect to my musicians that I'm working with. I didn't know if it would be something that'd be achievable. But yeah, I like drum wise anyway. But then I sat down with Hammy, my drummer, and I was like, "Could you do this?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, cool. So nice. Yeah, because like it is to me, because I'm not very much of a progo muso, it seems quite complicated. So that's why I was a bit reluctant. Totally, and I gave it to Hammy, and I was like, "Yeah, man." So they hammered through it, and I was like, "Wow, cool." Yeah, but it fit. This particular track, it kind of fit the vibe that I was wanting to go for with this album. That's why I brought it out. And yeah, you never know. Like, when you're going through the creative process and you write something that you're thinking, oh man, well, I don't know about that. I'll keep that there. You never know. It might be something that's great for you later on. So I kind of keep an archive of stuff.
Nice. All right, that's really cool. So I'm curious on some of the practicalities. Like, are you sitting, like, do you by default get your guitar and it's plugged into your DAW already, and you're recording these and putting them in a folder, or what's that look like?
It's chaos. It's a mess. Because you never know when inspiration might come. Mm-hmm. And if I'm fortunate and privileged enough to have time and to sit in my studio and play guitar and be creative that way, and actually come up with something, then yay, great. But sometimes, you could be in that position and just like, okay, I need to write something because I'm fortunate enough to be here right now. And then you come up with nothing. Yeah. So, sure. Like you can't force creativity. So sometimes my mobile phone is my best friend for putting that ideas down. So some of them are just me going, hey, nice. or singing some melodies, or if I'm not next to my door or whatever, I'll pick up a guitar and I come up with some ideas. I've got lots of videos of me on my phone just with ideas. It's like, make sure and put that down next time you're at the studio. Just record this, and then that follows with the next video, and piece that together. Then I can delete all the videos from my phone.
Right, got you, man.
So yeah, it's a bit mad. Sometimes I've got like folders inside like whatever album I'm working on of like me playing riffs. And arranged in a way that these ones will go together and these ones will go together, and then it's up to me to finally just go and do the work and piece things together. That's cool, in the studio.
Yeah, so you're just kind of like collecting little bits whenever they come, and then you start organizing that to make some sort of shape.
Yeah, because I don't know. I feel like. Sometimes when you just go into the studio and it's like, I'll go to write music today, it's kind of forcing something out of you, and it ends up, for me anyway, sometimes it just ends up being pretty crap.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you force it, as you say. Yeah, I mean, it's you. As you say, you gotta strike it when it comes, and it depends on your situation as well. If what you do is write in the studio all day, maybe you make yourself go there at the same time. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But a lot of us don't have that luxury, right? So you got to just take it whenever it comes.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a very, very fortunate person to have my own little studio.
Mm.
Something I've not always had. So I've kind of still practicing the process, going through the motions like I always have done. And when I do get time to go to the studio, then yay, cool, I can put things down, make it sound awesome. So my demos sound pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty album finished, worthy now. Some of the new ones that I'm coming out with, but obviously, I give them to the band and they can go, oh wow, right, that we could do this to this, we could do that to that, and crop things here, extend things here, and maybe do a different drum beat on this section. Let them play around with it, and then go in and do a final product.
Amazing. So that's really cool then. So, all right, so I can kind of see the process of you just getting bits of ideas, and then there's a part of the process where you're kind of compiling those ideas into working towards a demo, and then the demo goes to the band, you kick it around a bit. Are you guys in the room when you do that? Are you remote?
Well, I really wanted to write this album with the rest of the band, in terms of like me write all the riffs as I normally do, and kind of but before I made the demo, like on previous albums and this album, unfortunately, I made all the demos and presented it to the band. I didn't want to do it in this one, but COVID got in the way.
No choice.
So I had to go through the usual process of me making up all the demos and going, there you go, and then pick it apart and play around with it. But what I really wanted to do was just come up with all the riffs and go into the studio and work on it and arrange it with the band this time round, but didn't manage to do that.
Yeah. Fair. So would you say then that between the demo and the final version, do you start completely from scratch again when it comes to the final version, or do you kind of just build the demo into the final version?
An awful lot of the final guitars on this album are the demo guitars. So that's why there's like a combination of like 4 different guitars on this album. Nice. Like the rhythm guitars from when All the Light Goes Out, like I said, recorded
from years ago,
2009, on a Schecter Hellraiser.
Nice.
So it's got EMG pickups on it, and like all my other guitars have got bare knuckle aftermaths on them.
Did you just have the clean DI or what?
Well, yeah, I always record DI, always, so I can reamp it later on, because you never know when something from that archive is going to get pulled out to be used, and you don't know what kind of sound your final product's going to be. So
but what's wise is that you were doing that since back then as well, because then it gives you that option.
Yeah. I've been doing that since I knew that was a thing.
Yeah, nice.
I like having my options open and available to change at any point. So I kind of program like rough drums and stuff, because I don't want to be too pernickety about like drum stuff unless it's a specific pattern that's part of like the riff or whatever. So when I can leave things to be as free as possible, then I do, and I tend not to be too anal about making fills and things, and so I can leave that up to Hammy to express himself in the studio. It kind of goes from there. I present a demo to them, and they'll have their say, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good.
Yeah, and then they come in and do their parts. And so I'm really interested about this, because you said you kind of said you're sort of a producer first and foremost. So what's your studio setup like exactly? And they're all coming in, you're engineering everyone?
Yeah. I have a humble little studio in a garage that my father had built over a decade ago now. And after he passed away, it was lying empty, doing nothing for a few years. And I asked my mother, I said, can I use the space? I'll put some money into it and turn it into a rehearsal space. Because at the time we were spending lots of money for our own rehearsals, like renting a rehearsal space, and we were having to share it with other bands, and these other guys would smoke, and I didn't like that. And
the microphones are always disgusting.
Well, I always use my own microphone anyway.
Right,
so.
thank God, yeah.
But it's like things would end up smelling, and people would put beer on your amp and stuff, and and it was always cramped as well because it was a tiny little space.
And they get so hot, and yeah.
And every time you wanted to rehearse, you'd have to go in and set up your gear, then pack it away again. Yeah. So my mum allowed me to plough some money into this space, and basically it was soundproofed, like the floor, the ceiling, all the walls, and carpeted it, and it was a good rehearsal space for us. And then it was a large space. It was big enough to fit 2 cars and a motorbike in, when it was a garage. So it was a decent sized space for us. And when I went to India to get married, my bass player and my guitarist turned the shed part of the studio into the studio, right? Because there was like the main garage part, where the cars were. That's like the live room, and the shed part's now been turned into a little studio. It's quite tight, but it was an interesting mixing space. But I've got used to it, and
that's the important thing, isn't it? You just need to know your space. As long as your ears are calibrated to it, it does the job.
It took a while, but so I came back, and Hef had built me a table and everything, and those guys. Then I said, "There you go."
That's fantastic, man.
A wee wedding present.
And then are you going and are you mixing and mastering all your own music as well?
I do absolutely everything. Wow. Because I don't know, I'm a bit control freak. So.
I get it, man. You got a vision. But what's crazy is that's amazing. I mean, the production quality of your music is phenomenal. The mixing is absolutely top notch. So, I mean, you said you're a producer first and foremost. So, I mean, you've put a lot into that side of things, right?
Well, on this one, I wanted to go for it and make it as big as I possibly could. And with all the influences that I listed earlier, they're all pretty epic and very, very high quality, and I don't want to release something I think, well, you're always going to release something and go, I could have done that better. I could have done that better. But I want to make it as good as I can, at this point in time, to think that, I'm not going to go back and a week after release and go, I should have fixed that. So, my influences were like the best of the best in my mind, Hans Zimmer, Igor, the Devin Townsend stuff, and man, I just want to try and create something as good or as close to that as possible with my limited amount of gear.
But I mean, it's the ultimate challenge, isn't it? Because I feel like this kind of dense metal music with orchestra, with tons of vocal layers, I feel like that's got to be just about one of the hardest things you could possibly do, when it comes to a mixing project, man. It's such a challenge.
I could have kept on mixing this until I died at least 3 times.
How many tracks on average do you have in a project? Hundreds.
Oh man, it got to a point when this album started in production, I was still on my previous studio computer,
Right.
which had already been maxed out. Like the motherboard was maxed out as much as it could. And this was the computer that I had done the previous albums on. And I was like, this computer's not going to hack this album. And Martin, my bass player, love him. He's awesome, very skilled man. Built me my new computer. I was like, Martin, here's the budget. Just go hell for leather and make it as fast as you possibly can with that amount of money. And yeah, man, it's a rocket.
Wow, that's so good.
But because I started it on the previous computer, and that computer was struggling, basically I recorded the drums on a separate project. The guitars and bass would be on another project, and I'd have vocals on another project with stems of the mix downs or renders of everything.
And then when the computer's struggling and it takes ages just to load up one of those projects, it's a nightmare, man.
So I continued with that process until everything was tracked. And when it came to mixing, I then imported everything into one massive project for.
But then, did you have certain mix downs? Like, for instance, I don't know, you've probably seen where like Devin Townsend has done some mix breakdowns, and he'll often be mixing a project that has a mixed down drum mix, and the choirs and stuff will already kind of be mixed down. Are you doing that, or like
that's what I meant by stems? So I worked with the stems of the drums. The drums have their own project.
So I get that you put it all into different projects, and we're using mix downs in all those separate projects. But in the big final mixing one, is that like you're using the mix down from the drum project? Is that right? And I think on the final projects that I was working on, yes, I still had a render of the drums on that. But I can on this new computer, if I wanted to, import like the full have everything in, because it's quite a powerful computer. But I didn't need to. I was really happy with the mix of the drums that I did. So I just kept that. Fun fact, we used the drum kit that was used by a band called Dimmu Borgir. Wow. Yeah, of course, yeah.
From back in the 90s. Terrible at remembering names. The big drummer, the bald guy from the really famous album from back then. Is it Puritanica and something or other. The big long sentence.
That's the big one.
Yeah, so you can see that exact drum kit on their music videos and stuff.
So you bought that drum kit off of them, or
no? A friend from back in the day acquired this drum kit. He was a really good drummer. He's went off and he does chefing for like big bands now. So
nice.
But yeah, we done some Death covers together many years ago, and when he decided to go off and be a chef, he put that drum kit in the storage in the warehouse where my bass player Martin works out of, which is a company called DM Audio that's like backline hire and PA hire.
Right.
And that drum kit, I knew that drum kit was there, and when it came time to record this one, I was like, "Hey Matt."
Nice, get that drum kit.
Gonna borrow your drum kit, because with this one I wanted to make it as real as possible and not resort to using triggers or anything like that to replace things. And
so you didn't use any triggers on the album?
No. It's so this drum kit.
You must be layered it in. No, you don't blend any samples.
No, I use a lot of microphones.
Wow, that's a hell of a drum sound, man. If that's completely organic, like wow.
I put Hammy through his paces, like because some of the long double kick parts and stuff, like because Hammy's so used to using like triggers live, like drummers kind of get a little bit, say, what's the right word to use? complacent. You know, it's easy to get that full velocity sound by just tapping them, you know, and whereas I take that away, and Hammy's got the the acoustic. You know, I've got the Beta 91s at the front. I've got the D6s in the outer rim. I've got 58s on the outside as well, and it's like, oh wow, I need to hit it quite hard, like consistently with both feet, and make sure that my left foot is really consistent as well, because you find with an awful lot of drummers that use double pedals a lot that the left foot is quite weak in comparison to the right. And it's just getting that consistency of velocity, you know.
Wow.
But I mean, I sample everything at multiple velocities all the way around the kit. So if there's anything like, because you know, the Hammy's got really close splashes and things next to toms, and he's one of these drummers that likes to hit things on the way round whilst doing like runs around the kit, you know. And physics, you know, there's no getting away from that cutting through a mic. And if you're mixing a tom in a certain way to make it sound the way it is, and that cymbal cuts through and it goes, and it's just like, man. So then, yes, I'll replace that with a sample of itself at that particular velocity.
The samples that you've made.
With the sample of the kit. Like, so I'm not resorting to third parties. So I multiple sample everything, at all different velocities and multiple hits, and make gogs. So if there is issues like that, which is just, you know, I'm not hindering taking anything away from the performance. I'll just, for that particular part, I'll just, there's a blend tool on Drumagog, and you just blend it until that part's like, it's covered enough. Then
you're basically just removing some of the bleed. You're just using it as a kind of technique to make it a bit cleaner.
Like a fancier gate. So I hate having to replace things to capture the performance, even to the point where I wasn't even time aligning things in this album, drum wise, because Hammy's such an expressive drummer, and you time align things too much, it becomes a bit rigid. I love his dynamics, and I've always struggled to try and capture that in previous albums with the gear that I've had. But with this drum kit, we spent a lot of time on it. I brought in someone else, a man called Tony Hodge from a band that I produced, a band called Genus Lee. And when I recorded his drum kit, he brought his own Mapex Saturn kit into the studio, and it was the best sounding kit I've ever recorded. Sounds beautiful, meticulously tuned, didn't have to do anything to it. And I was like, wow, man, that's really good. So I got his number. And when it came time for me to do this one, I said, Tony, you want to come into the studio, give us a wee hand?
Nice, tuning it all up, setting it up.
And he spent a day tuning the whole kit, and then Martin turned up with 9 different snare drums. And it was like, here you go, like let's choose what snare we're going to use for this album. And Tony went through every single snare, tuned it high, tuned it medium, tuned it low, to find out what one would be best with all 9. And so it took a while. And
what's that? 27 different snare sounds.
So then we finally decided on. I think it was a Pearl. I can't remember, dear me, but.
It's a phenomenal snare sound, man. I mean, that stood out to me massively when I was listening.
I like it because it was tuned quite deep as well, which is something that I know Hammy doesn't like or doesn't normally do with his snare drum. It took him a while to get used to not having the same amount of resistance from his snare, because he does tend to tune quite high in our rehearsals and live. So it was a big adjustment for Hammy, but fair play to him, man. He really stepped up, and having to perform without having the triggers on, so he could hear what he was doing with his feet, by just hitting the kick drums harder. So it took a few takes, but that process as well, we're kind of making things up as we go with some of the tracks as well. So we'd do a section and think, maybe you can try and do this kind of fill, or make your right hand on the china rather than the main one, and kind of work creatively throughout the recording process as well. So it's not just straight takes. If you can do a straight take, cool. Fire through, do the straight take, then maybe jump in at certain points and make bits better. That's kind of how we've worked through doing the drums.
Wow, man, that's meticulous work, but it paid off massively. Like, that's so cool to hear. I mean, how long would you say that took you, the production process?
Drums, we recorded them in, I think it was a week, maybe 2 weeks. Not every day, but it took us a while. Guitars, I honestly couldn't say, because they're always done, demos throughout time.
More pre-production.
I mean, just touching them up and re-recording bits that were a bit naff. Maybe another, shall I say, a week at most. Probably even just like maybe 4 days. Vocals, though, oh man, that took some time. The vocals always takes the most amount of time.
Because you're doing a lot of layers, right? So what does that typically look like then? A vocal track of a song, on average, what are you doing like down the middle and then layers and then chorus comes in, or what does it look like?
It evolves over time. Like what I was doing on this production is not what I was doing in the previous album, or the album before that, or the album before that. I'm always learning and trying to make things better. And on this one, I think the template that I made for myself had like center vocal, melodic with delay, center vocal with some other sort of like distorted effects on it for like a more intense sound, for maybe my fry singing, and stereo shouty distorted vocals. When I say distorted, it's got like a tube on it, it just kind of adds a bit of grit.
Saturation.
Then it really comes into the craziness when you go into the backing vocals and the choir vocals, where I record everything in 4s or 8s. So
for the stereo spread.
For one melody, I'll do at least 4 or 8 tracks. Then I'll do the octave higher, do the octave lower. Then if you got like 3-part harmonies, 4-part harmonies, or 5-part harmonies, and you're doing all of them at the octave highers, the octave lowers, and whatever you're doing it at, then it starts to get really big. Then you bring in, on this project, I brought in a lot of other vocalists as well.
Right, yeah.
So, and that really added to the thickness and more grand sound of the choirs. Tommy Concrete, a client of mine, I've always admired how deep and powerful his vocals are, and he came in and done like the bass, because he can go much lower than I can, and has that like a much harder timbre. Is that the right way to pronounce it? Timbre. Timbre.
Yeah.
He's like all nuts and presence, and I'm kind of somewhere squishy in the middle. And we had great fun doing choirs, because we done similar kind of thing on his productions when I was recording him and his solo stuff. And I really liked working with him. I also brought in Tom from Layered Reality. Flew him over. He done a lot of the mid sort of tenor stuff, like an awful lot of the things that I had already done. But it's always good to get another voice together,
more texture,
thicken out. So he done that. I kept a lot of my vocals on the choirs as well, and had Lisa from the Ramonas. I was introduced to her from Marching. he said that she also does sort of like choir work as well, and she very kindly came in and donated a lot of her time in the studio to do some epic operatic singing for the highs. Wow, like voice was amazing. And we had a lot of fun as well. It's just, pushing her boundaries, and she had fun. Had Donna come in, a friend who's a drummer primarily, but she does a bit of singing, and she's got this sort of sweeter sounding voice, which worked more because I had on the demos I had this sort of like Bulgarian choir VST that I used for some stuff, and I performed that with the keyboard, and I was like, I need a sweeter sounding voice that's more sort of in that sort of Bulgarian-y like sound that I was going for. And so I gave Donna a call, and she came in and she done like those kind of vocals for me. And it worked really well. That was like on Overexpansion, the song Overexpansion. She done them.
Nice.
And for the screamy stuff, I had just some more of my clients that I've recorded throughout time. They're more sort of grunge metal bands. So I had Seb from Extort come in and do a lot of the shouty stuff, and Sin from a band called Nassau, who I'm mixing at the moment, come in and do some shouty stuff as well, which was fun. Wow. So I like having more people to come in and do vocals when you're doing like big choirs and backing vocals. Just adds so much to the sound. You can really tell that when they listen to previous stuff where it's just all me, then listen to this album, and it's like so much better.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, definitely breathe some life into it. And you really went the extra mile to get everybody physically in the studio with you rather than sending you over stems.
Yeah. Luckily, like all these people were local, with the exception of Tom, who's really he's kind of local. He's only over in the Netherlands, so it's just a short flight. He had fun, but yeah, everybody was local, so that's good.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's handy. Like, wow, yeah, what an awesome process, man. And so you mentioned a few there, but like you said, you do a lot of producing and mixing and stuff for other bands then?
Yeah, just it's not really my main source of income, but when I do have a band that piques my interest and are also interested in working with me, then it's a good break from their day-to-day life as a truck driver. So so yeah, take some time off and do that, and it's fun. So it's mostly local bands. I do some bands from down south as well. Mainly when people come to me, they enjoy the process, and a lot of my clients are return customers. So nice. It's fun.
So bands you actually have in the studio, then do you do any remote mixing gigs or anything like that as well?
No, I'm quite pernickety as well. Like I've people have asked to work with me and stuff, and I've heard demos, and if it's not something I think that I can really get behind or feel I can contribute, like I don't want to take their money.
That's cool, man.
Because producers meant to have that producer role. I don't want to be the guy that they're paying and they're turning up and I'm just hitting record, and like, oh, there you go. You don't want that. Like at the end of the day, they're hiring me as a producer. I need to believe in what they're doing and give them guidance. And my expertise is to what gear can get them the kind of sound that they're going for. Understand what it is that they're trying to, what their end goal is, and work with them to help them achieve that, not only technically but musically as well. Like have input as to arrangements, dynamics, especially vocals as well. Like a lot of people come to me just for vocals.
Vocals is so personal, isn't it? It's almost like there is an element of needing to make a comfortable space for somebody to do that, right? To express themselves, so intimate.
Yeah, I've had a lot of vocalists that have come into the studio and went away like so happy, and it makes me feel like happy as well when I've pushed someone beyond where they ever thought they could possibly go, and they go, man, I like had no idea that I was able to achieve something like that. And it's like, do you teach vocals? I'm like, I'm sorry, no, I'm not a vocal teacher, but I can give you guidance as to how to get certain sounds out, and give you an environment and encouragement, and to try and achieve something that you might not have been able to achieve before. And when that happens in the studio, it's magic, and it makes me really enjoy doing what I do.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's it. That magic moment where you really feel the music in the room. That's really cool. That's special, and it makes sense that you've had, like, for instance, the singers on your album will come into the room with you, because then you really get that feeling. So that's nice.
I think there's a particular song on the album, on this one, called "Unbalanced," where it's just choir, and we all kind of went, "Wow, that's proper epic." When all the choir parts finally came together, because I recorded everybody separately, and it just kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and when I heard the end result, it was like, wow, that's pretty huge,
Yeah, it is special, man. That's so cool, man. I wanna take it right back to the beginning and ask you, like, when you first got into music and how you got all the way from there to doing all this awesome stuff you're doing now.
Wow, the very beginning.
Yeah. What was the first moment you remember music making an impact on you?
See, strangely, my memory is terrible as an adult, but I remember an awful lot of things from when I was a toddler.
Wow.
Some very, very early memories. And I remember my mum had this tape, and it was, and she played it, and I heard it, and I got really scared, and I used to hide. It was the War of the Worlds. I found out later on in life it was War of the Worlds. Right. By oh my God, see my memory again. It was the musical. The War of the
so
Worlds.
It sounds like an alien invasion is happening in your house, basically.
Yeah, but it was a brilliant musical. Oh man, Jeff something, or I can't remember his name. I'm looking it up right now. This is annoying.
Jeff Wayne. Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. That's
the one. Thank you. Strange, like that soundtrack, or that musical, is now like the band's go-to album when we're on tour. And as soon as the sun goes down, or when the sat nav changes colour, it's right. It's time for War of the Worlds. So we put that on in the van. But anyway, that was my earliest.
So that was your first impression. And so when you said about action sci-fi, there we go. It's right there from 2 years old.
Yeah, but that's another thing. Like going back to what we were saying about music conveying emotions, and that bass line that's in that dun 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 dun, and you've got this big, like, it's when the aliens unscrewing the lid on the capsule, and it's got a big effect that goes, and then you're like, whoa, scared the hell out of me as a kid, and
wow.
But to remember, like, when you're a kid back then, you're not subjected. We had like 3 television channels and a TV screen that was smaller than my laptop, and you didn't really watch television. You played with your toy cars or whatever, and then that comes on the stereo, and you freaked out. I mean, the 10 o'clock news freaked me out when I was a kid. I used to go and hide behind the couch when the 10 o'clock news came out. It was just the sounds, it was like really hard hitting, powerful orchestral music, for the 10 o'clock news. Yeah. And then the bell used to chime, the Big Ben sound, dong, and now this is happening, blah 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 blah, and then dong, and it's like, man, as a kid, that
very stimulating.
Yeah, it freaked the hell out of me. I mean, I was tiny, and but that was sounds that I remember. And then later on when I grew up, I got into like Mark Knopfler. I really liked Mark Knopfler, and Dire Straits, and Queen. Then I got introduced to Iron Maiden. And then as soon as I was introduced to Iron Maiden, I was like, wow, this is it. This is what I like. I like this music. And I was like, I'm a massive Iron Maiden fan. Then somebody introduced me to Sepultura. And I was like, wow, that's like even more intense. I mean, this guy's not even singing. He's like really angry, he's shouting. And for me, like back in the 80s, you didn't have the internet. You found things out from each other. Your friends would make you tapes. It's like, here, listen to that. My friend gave me this. And it's like, wow, cool. There was nowhere to learn anything other than like magazines. If you're lucky enough to be able to buy magazines. You could go into the store and look at album covers and think, oh, that one looks pretty metal. Do I use all my money to buy this album that I've never heard, that I know nothing about, but I'm just judging it purely on its album cover quality? Yeah. And you take it home, and it's either amazing or you're like, oh my God, it's terrible. So, but that's like, it's going into a whole other conversation of like, how music was consumed back then, and that's why, like in these albums, I make albums because it's what I know and it's what I like. I like to sit and consume a whole album, like the same way that I don't watch like the first 2 chapters of a movie. then or skip to the bits of the movie that I like,
and then switch to another movie and get a scene from there, and then my favorite character gets killed at that bit, I'll just skip over that bit and I'll watch the rest. Pretend that he's still alive at the end of the film. No, I don't do that. So and I think music should be consumed in the same way, and like album wise anyway. I'm with you. I think we're a very small minority at this point, but I almost exclusively listen to albums start to finish, and that's pretty much all I listen to, man. And yeah, I think that's we're a very small minority now.
when I was doing the long distance truck driving, I'd consume albums like no other.
I thought that when you said truck driving, I thought the great thing about a job like that is a lot of listening time.
Sadly, I don't do long distance anymore because it was too much for me physically and mentally.
I can imagine.
So I don't listen to music at all now because I'm doing local stuff. So I need to keep myself completely aware of my surroundings. Right. But yeah, before when I was doing the distance stuff, man, I'd just double albums on repeat.
Yeah, nice, man. So yeah. And the sun goes down, it's time for War of the Worlds.
Yeah. But to answer your question, that was like back in the 80s, it was, War of the Worlds and Agadoo, if you can remember that.
Wow, nice.
Then, Iron Maiden and Sepultura, and just kind of went from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when did you start playing music then? You decided you want to be a musician yourself?
When I think I was 11 years old, my father got me my first guitar. I still have it. It's
nice.
like a make of it's an SG shaped guitar, but it's called a Gearson. So I think it was just like a small brand at the time. Mm-hmm. And man, I was terrible, so bad. I like for years.
Somewhere.
Yeah, but I was just I used to get so frustrated, playing, nothing was working. But you got to remember, this is still before the internet. You know, I had nobody to guide me. Nothing. I'm literally picking up guitars. How do I play it? And I'm learning by ear. Okay, I don't even know how to tune it properly. I got a tuner, and I was like, okay, so I learned to tune that. And nobody showed me how to put the strings on properly, so I'm winding them over each other and things. And
wow.
So it took years. Took years.
So you completely self-taught?
Yeah, with guitar, yeah. I even have a dent in my finger here because I didn't know that plectrums existed for a while.
Oh, so you were really in the dark.
So for the first, I grew up in a cottage in the middle of nowhere, man.
Yeah.
So I used to play the guitar with my nail, like hitting the guitar like that, and man, it was sore.
Yeah, I bet.
It's kind of screwed up my finger. Then I found out plectrums. I said, "Oh wow, this is so much better."
Yeah.
So plectrums. Then I had my own names for things. I used to call solos, like guitar solos. I used to call them twiddles. And
it's a good name.
Twiddles or noodles. Still call them noodles.
Nice. Yeah, a bit of noodling.
I used to have lots of funny names for it. I've forgotten it now, but learning the terminology.
Wow, literally. So you literally just listen to music and had a guitar. And
I can't.
Someone could have bought you a book at least.
Well, in saying that, like when I got into sort of like my later teens, when I powered through like the early years, thinking, "Oh man, one day something will happen and I'll get a wee bit better," and I kind of gave up on the guitar for a little bit and went to bass. And I guess I was a much better bass player than I was a guitarist when I was a teenager. Picked up the bass and I found that a lot easier because I was using my fingers. And I learned, because I was a massive Iron Maiden fan, I learned like the first 10 years of Iron Maiden. Like nice. I just learned all of Steve Harris's bass lines. And I was like, wow, this is I'm good at this.
So lots of those 3-finger triplet.
Well, I didn't do the 3-finger. I done the triplets with 2 fingers. I managed to work a way to do that because I don't know, I just couldn't do the 3-finger thing.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult, but I managed it with the 2 fingers. Then my mother brought in like a bass tutor for me. It was like, okay. And he showed me a few different techniques and I got into doing slap bass and all that kind of thing. Nice. Then I was like, okay, well, how much further can I go with this? And he even said to me, "It's like, look, I feel like I'm just taking your money now, man. Like you're going beyond where I can teach with this."
Cool.
And so I went back on the guitar again, and kind of went from there. And that's when I started playing a little bit more seriously.
Nice. And so bands and things like that, like what was the first band that you did, or was it forming this project? Or
oh no, man, we could talk about this all day.
Nice.
When I was 13, I went to high school with my drummer Hammy.
Cool.
And him, and my friend Matt Oric, we formed like a little band together when we were like 16, 17, I think me and Hammy were, and Matt was just a little bit older than us. And that was called Boiling Point. We never played a gig. We just every week we'd come in and we'd have like about 4 hours worth of music that we've written, but never ever, seen the light of day. And that's where we really kind of learned an awful lot of skills of working with each other as musicians. And then what ended up happening is we progressed and went to college, then formed a band, and it was like a death metal band called Taste My Silence. And we gigged. My cousin took up the vocals. We needed somebody, so he did that. And then we got into the scene. Because I'm a country bumpkin, I had no friends other than Hammy. We went Matt introduced me to the scene in Edinburgh. And I got to meet people and see that, bands played gigs. So I was like, that's cool. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to go out and play gigs too. And I've always been terrible at introducing myself to people and finding places to play. So Martin, my bass player, kind of takes care of that aspect for me, which is very nice of him. But yeah, that's kind of where it all kicked off, and made a little name for myself with Ramage Inc. when I finally done that. And that came and went, with the life changes in your mid-20s. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of came back when I got that offer from ProgPower, and got the band together. So yeah, there was a few bands when I was a kid, and you learn from your experiences of working with certain musicians and what you like, what you don't like. But through the various bands that I did when as a kid, I learned that I have a specific type of music that I like to write that doesn't really fit in a co-writing environment, because I've been in co-writing environments and I can work really well in co-writing environments if I know that's what's expected and what style is expected. But for me as a creator, I like to do this kind of music, and that doesn't really fit well with others, I've found.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, I just done it myself, and that's why I went to a party one night and I was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna, release my own thing. What should I call it?" And a friend of mine said, "Hey man, you should call it Ramage Inc." Nice. A drunk suggestion that stuck, and
amazing.
Here we are.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, that's wicked. And so yeah, all sorts of kind of metal bands and projects, and I guess being you, I assume that you have quite a diverse taste considering the stuff that you do. So I suppose you can do all kinds of metal things.
Oh man, I love, like when I was a kid, I loved Strapping and Lad. Well, like in my early 20s and stuff, that was like the main inspiration for me to do Ramage Inc. in the beginning was Strapping and Lad. Loved that. Yeah. And Fear Factory, loved that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Are you big into music outside of metal, or are you a metalhead through and through? Well, you said film music, but
yeah. I'm so not a metalhead.
Cool.
Man, I tend, yes, I do listen to metal, but it's like stuff that I'm kind of, that I like. It's more chilled, more melodic, in my mind, the mature metal music. Yeah, there's that, but I do like to listen to an awful lot of chill stuff. Man, I'm in my mid-40s now, so.
Oh man, I'm with you, dude. I know how it goes, man. When you say chill music, are you talking like opposite extreme, super chill, new age music, or what?
Well, I listen to an awful lot of Eastern music. I don't even know what it is. Right. Sometimes my wife's from India, and I listen to an awful lot of stuff that she just puts on YouTube. And
wow, Indian classical music is so beautiful, man. Like, I listen to that sometimes too.
And I like ambient stuff. Like, go back to Devin again. I like Devin Townsend's Ghost and the Casualty's a cool album that he done. I orchestral soundscapes and stuff. I absolutely love the Dune soundtracks that Hans Zimmer did. Yeah, man.
Nice, cool, man. Yeah, so it's a bit of like some of the nice chill ambience, and then when you want it, ramp it up with some mature metal.
I don't mean to diss the other types of metal.
No, I'm with you, man.
Gerarg, but I don't know, like it gets to a point for me that I am angry for the sake of being angry. It kind of just gets a bit stale. And I mean, when I'm of the mentality that I want to listen to like metal, then yeah, I'll chuck on Cannibal Corpse or Meshuggah, because those guys are awesome.
Yeah.
And that's my era of angry music. But it's intense and it has a vibe, and I guess you have to be in a particular kind of mood to want to listen to that. I don't recreationally sit back in my rocking chair and listen to Meshuggah. Although, no, that's a lie.
Yeah, sometimes, as you say, there's a specific mindset for that as well, I think.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. Funnily enough, Strapping Young Lad's actually one of my go-tos for that kind of thing. If I want something super intense, some of the Strapping Young Lad stuff, man, like stick that on this.
No, that was a major influence in me when I first heard Strapping Young Lad. It was
it the City album?
Underneath the Waves from the City album. That was the first track I ever heard from Devin Townsend, and I was like, man, that is like, I was scared to listen to it. I was like, man, this is intense. Like, I turned it off after the first wee bit, and I was like, oh my God, like, don't want anybody to catch me listening to that. And but then I went back to it because it was, I think it was released on like a Metal Hammer CD or something like that, a compilation.
Right. Yeah.
But then I went back to it to listen to it again and like try and understand what was going on, because the mix is so like that mix is something else.
Yeah.
But I loved it because it was because of the way it was mixed. It was so intense you could barely make anything out.
Yeah, it's just like slamming compression like crazy, man.
The guitar, the 5150, I think it was recorded DI'd from the back of the head, like, but man, the music was so intense, and the vocals were so powerful, and I love the lyrical content on the last track of the album as well. And it was just very, very inspirational for me, as a 20-year-old guy. Then someone introduced me to like what he also does outside of that, which was the Ocean Machine album.
Yeah.
And like, again, more influences. So yeah, I guess I have to wear the Devin Townsend influence on my sleeve because he's been there since the beginning for me.
So with the impact that those records had, are they your favorite of Devin's records, or he's still got such a massive catalog? I suppose you mentioned some of the mellower ones as well. What are some of your favorites?
Obviously Ocean Machine, because like, when you hear something like that and you're 20, it's like, wow, that was the be all and end all for music for me. So Ocean Machine, from his catalogue at least, I love that album. Transcendence, the one that he did before he disbanded the project. Love that album. I think that was one of his best works for me. Ghost, love it. Deconstruction, love it.
Man, Deconstruction is wild. That one is intense, man.
It took me a few listens.
That one I have to be in a very particular mindset for.
Like some of the Ziltoid stuff. The first album was
so much fun. Yeah,
and that's more fun things,
Totally, yeah.
But yeah, I think the Ghost album's incredible, and the one that he done with Shay, the Casualty is a cool album. Really good.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, that's so great how he has so many different sounds and energy levels within his catalog, man. It means he can be a go-to artist for the most extreme intense thing you want, and also for the most chill ambient thing. So
yeah, so that's I guess that's why he was such an inspiration, because he could do all those things, and he didn't have to just stick to doing one thing.
Totally.
And when you learn that somebody's doing something like that, when you're a young musician, you're like, man, well, I want to do that too. I want to do different things and not just be stuck doing the all the time,
That's it, man.
And I want to have different flavors, different things going on within my music throughout an album. And I did do lots of other kind of projects throughout my 20s that weren't Ramage Inc., where I could have that outlet.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to do more different things in the years to come. Will it be called Ramage Inc? I don't know, but we'll see. I'll just keep on creating, and I'll present it to the guys, and if they think that, that's something we can do, we'll do it. And if not, then I can always keep it, maybe release it as a thing on the side. So I guess that's why he was such an inspiration for me. But at the same time, I listened to lots of other bands and artists over the years. And I even had a few years of listening to lots of pop music, believe it or not. I got really inspired by Lady Gaga for a while.
As far as pop goes, she's a pretty creative artist. What was it that drew you to that production?
The thing is, when you just see things on TV, you think, oh, it's just another pop person, overdoing it with all the makeup and the crazy videos and that. I was like, ugh, no. But then I watched her live on a Glastonbury performance, and I was like, wow, she's amazing. And she's playing everything. And then I read more into what she does, and she writes everything herself, and she's playing the piano live. At the time, I was massively into Muse as well. And so I always thought people that could play piano were just oh man, you're proper talented if you can play the piano. So she was doing that, but she had a rock band, rock/metal band, playing her pop music, being the backing band for her pop music. And it was just so much cooler than the versions that are put out on, to the masses. Yeah. And I was like, man, I get this. This is cool. And it was put forward to the audience in such a way that I was like, man, if I was at that show, I'd be rocking out, man. It was good. So I guess it made me appreciate certain pop in a way after seeing Lady Gaga's performance at Glastonbury.
Nice. I love that, man. I mean, it's great to keep an open mind about these things and just draw more. There's lessons to be learned in all of it, right?
Man, I just love power, passion, and melody. And there's still a lot of pop music out there that I'm like, man, that's a killer tune, If only it had more heavy guitar. So with all these pop songs, it's like, yeah, man, just needs more heavy guitar. So
I'm with you, man.
I'm going to be doing a bunch of covers over the next little while as well, which I might touch on a few more poppy type songs and put them up in my Ramage Productions YouTube.
Nice,
but
cool.
We'll see.
Yeah, and I suppose it's interesting. Now you mentioned that, what else is on the horizon for you? I mean, obviously you've got this massive album release with the band.
Yeah. Well, this album was just such a long haul to get done and finished and out. I have been saying to people that have been asking, what's next, and I'm like, man, I just want to chill. I want to write something that's a bit more chill to cleanse my palate,
and then come out with the heaviest album you've ever made.
That's just what happened. Sat down with guitar 2 days ago and made.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I sat down with the wrong guitar. I think that's what happened. Okay. So
you're 7-string, right?
Yeah, because I was listening to a lot of, not a lot. I was listening to some of the performances by Rabia Masad,
right?
Who is a proggy metal-ish guitarist. I don't know that much about him. I've just seen an awful lot of his YouTube videos where he talks about gear and some of his own solo stuff, and he does an awful lot of things with companies to make guitar gear. And
Yeah, I mean, he was at
VSTs and that kind of thing. Uh,
back in the day, wasn't he? So yeah.
I have no idea. I just know that he is responsible for working with Victory amps to create the Kraken,
Right.
which is going back to what I said very, very early in our conversation. I used 5150s for my entire heavy guitar sounding career until this album, where I swapped it out for the Kraken on this one, because
Nice.
the 5150 I love it. It's a beautiful sounding amp, and it's a workhorse. It's been around Europe with me.
Mm.
But the mixes that I was getting, it just wasn't sitting right in this particular mix. Going back to what you were saying before, it's so difficult to fit so much in a mix when you've got choirs, orchestra, heavy drums. Everything needs to be like that, and they're all fighting for space, and your ears can only hear so much. And the 5150 was just sitting in a place where other things needed to occupy that space. And I was like, I need to try something else. And I sent a little message out, because I heard Rubia's tone. And actually, the thing that really got me inspired to try this amp was a band called Giant Walker from, I think they're from down Newcastle way. Young band, amazing band, brilliant album they've got out. So yeah, check out Giant Walker. But yeah, I seen them live, and this guitarist had a Kraken like amp and cab, and I was like, man, that's a killer guitar tone. So I went online and I asked, like, my friends, like, who's got one of these? Can I try one out, bring it to the studio, put it in, swap, reamped a few tracks with it. And I was like, there we go, that works. So it was kind of like light bulb moment. Yeah, reamped the entire album with that, and yeah, that's what we have for Humanity's Field.
It is a really, really awesome tone. How would you describe the difference between that and the 5150 sound? Is more low mids, or?
Well, the thing is, I don't know if I might be wrong in saying this. I'm pretty sure that the Channel 2 and the Kraken is modelled after that. It's kind of going for the 5150 tone. I know Channel 1 is more martially based. But so I think that's why I liked it so much. But the Kraken kind of has, like, it's all nuts and all fizz, like on the Channel 2. I think I kind of scooped the mid out ever so slightly and boosted the treble and boosted the bass on the Channel 2 for this one. And yeah, so the fizz was sitting a little bit higher than where it would be with the 5150, and it was just so much more ballsier. It was like the bottom end was kind of lying in a lower frequency.
It's really ballsy, yeah.
Whereas the 5150 is sort of all kind of like mids and like a harsh top end
sound. Yeah, totally no.
So I think with the vocals and how they're doing an awful lot of melodic stuff, and with the choir, that harshness was kind of like they were all fighting together for space. And if the vocals are here, then if the guitar's up here and down there, then you've got space.
Man, that's it. I think, like, I know a lot of people that make like symphonic metal music or music that's quite densely produced like that, and this is the thing that we all talk about, myself included. It's when you have that kind of harsh mid-range guitar sound, it clashes with everything. So carving that space is awesome, man.
Going back to Jens Bogren, who we were talking about earlier, he produced the live album from a band called Septic Flesh. I don't know if you've heard of them, but another awesome band.
Very extreme technical stuff, yeah.
I can't remember who it is in the band that writes all the orchestration, but they have like live orchestra, and they played this incredible live show in a big amphitheater. And Jens had the job of mixing it, and I think I heard a wee snippet of him talking about it. saying it was very difficult to make everything fit in the mix. And when you've got a musician that writes so much orchestration, like all the different parts, and I guess it comes down to compromise. It's always a compromise when you've only got 2 ears that can hear a certain amount of frequencies. So it's just putting forward what's going to fit in the best way you can, I guess.
It is, man. It's hard because when you have a lot of orchestration, what often happens in a metal mix is the orchestra gets kind of fried down to a crisp, because you want the big slamming drums and guitars. And as you say, man, if you've really, like, I'll often do orchestrations that have 100 tracks or whatever, especially if you do like string section violin, B section violins, violas, all on separate tracks like that. It gets heavy, man. And then you put a lot of detail in, and then the mix comes back, and you're like, I wasted so much time.
In hindsight, I wish I had the orchestra a little bit louder on Humanity's Field, because I spent a lot of work on it. But at the end of the day,
a lot of work,
I was.
You got to be objective and go for the best mix, man. At the end of the day,
so I turned it up at certain bits. But for a lot of the tracks, there's orchestra from start to finish, and you don't notice it because it's only like a texture in the far
it's the wall of sound type thing, right? You're kind of making this dense texture that just hits really hard, and it's a cool sound, man.
I made these tracks to kind of stand alone as well, right, on a few of the tracks, especially the song called June Future. The orchestra's in there all the way through, but it's a lot of Eastern instruments and mixed with Western orchestra. It was fun. It was fun playing that and see what I could get away with.
Yeah, man, dude, so cool, man. I feel like we could talk all day. The time has flown past so much, man.
Oh my god!
I can't believe it, man. Like, we've been going for so long. Oh man, there's still more things I wanted to ask you, but I'll try to wrap it up. Well, I guess one thing that I just wanted to ask, because you got a lot of experience, man. It's really cool. You made a lot of music. You produce a lot of other people. To other musicians and creators and stuff out there, like, if you could give your best advice, what would it be?
Other musicians? Well, that's a good question. I've never been asked that before. Advice: don't listen to me, man. I certainly haven't made it. I've not achieved like as much as I would have hoped to have achieved. But I guess, if I was to give any advice, say just keep at it. Don't let anybody tell you to conform to anything that you don't want to do. If you've got power and passion and you want to express that in your own way, then find a way to do it, and find like-minded people that are not only going to encourage you, but work with you and help you towards achieving what it is that you want to do.
Cool, man. Well, dude, that's awesome. That's fantastic advice. And unfortunately, there's plenty more that I'd love to ask you, but you've given me so much of your time, man. I'm so grateful for it. So I think it's as good a place as any to wrap things up.
Okay, man. Catch me in the next album.
That's it. We'll definitely have to do it again sometime, man. Before we just completely cut it, is there anything else that you'd like to make sure you get in there? I've talked for so long I can't even remember what I've said and what I've not said. So if I haven't already, I just want to thank everybody that's helped me along the way. For the people that have been following Ramage Inc. over the years, it means a lot. And a big shout out to everyone that helped me musically on the album. I had a lot of guests in this one, which made me very happy, and I'm quite proud of this one, particularly. So just a thank you to everyone that's put up with me over this crazy process. Yeah, right on, man. Right on. Well, man, thank you so much for joining me and coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting, and I look forward to doing it again sometime.
Lovely talking to you, man. So yeah, I'll hopefully chat to you in the next one.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Creating a Universe. A special thank you to Bryan from Ramage Inc. for joining me. I really enjoyed this one. Be sure to check out Ramage Inc. and their new album Humanity Has Failed at linktr.ee/Ramage Inc. Links will be in the show notes. That's all for this one. I'll see you next time.